This is an actual play of the tabletop role-playing game Trophy by Jesse Ross. The incursion we're using is the Flocculent Cathedral by Jim Crocker. The purpose of this recording is to demonstrate how Trophy works, to show you the kinds of stories you can tell with this game, and of course to entertain you. One quick note, I get a rule slightly wrong during play. On a ruin roll, you have to roll higher than your current ruin score for your ruin score to go up, not equal to or higher like I say in the recording. It's a fairly minor thing, but I thought it was worth pointing out. This podcast series is a production of The Gauntlet, with editing by Sam Dunwald. The music is Chalet by Maidan. You can support The Gauntlet and help fund more great shows like this at our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/gauntlet. If you're interested in Trophy, you can get the core rules of the game in Codex Dark 2, available on DriveThruRPG. If you'd like to try the Flocculent Cathedral, it can be found in Codex Hunger, which is also on DriveThru. We'll have links in the show notes. And with that, please enjoy Trophy, the Flocculent Cathedral. A bit of housekeeping before we enter Ring 3. Orlin, you've told us that you're at Ruin 5. That means you are one away from being completely lost to the Fen. You can do what's called a reduction roll. And a reduction roll is whenever, well, let's just read the actual rule here. When your ruin reaches 5, you may now reduce it by destroying treasure, sabotaging your fellow treasure hunters, or preventing the use of rituals. You should do these acts in a way that does not draw attention to yourself. The more it looks like an accident or simple bad luck, the better. Every time you do that, you roll a light die, and if you get less than your current ruin, you decrease it by 1. So I want to give you an option. I want to give you the opportunity to do that pretty early so that you don't get caught by a by a ruin roll and lose. So that's one thing. The second thing is I'm going to want each of you to tell me, because all of you have had ruin score increases, I want to know how your condition is intensifying at this point. How are the little red spiders? What are they doing on your body now? How is the strange luminescent tendrils? How are they behaving? And, of course, I've already told you that your tongue is now whispering at you, but it's too quiet for you to understand what it's saying. You just hear it whispering.
I imagine that with the spiders that I can no longer crack my knuckles on this hand because they're under the skin. And so when I crack it, I'm just kind of squishing them. I can crack it on my other hand, but like it's up in the knots in my knuckles and probably up in my arm at this point. Probably the hair, whatever hair I have on that arm, is also a little bit more downy, like spider web now.
Cassian, what about you?
Yeah, the tendrils are growing on my skin now. Kind of the same way as Basso's, the hair on his arms is now spiderwebby. Mine is now mossy.
Yeah. What color are they right now? The tendrils?
Reddish brown. Which is why at first I don't notice. Okay. Because that's not far from the natural color. And then they start to sort of twitch a little bit and respond to light. And that's when it itches. And so I look down and I'm like, wait, that's not just hair.
Is reddish brown, is that like the color of Nima? Because Nima is a warrior goddess, is there a warrior saint? Is it the blood? Is that what it is? Or is it something else?
Yeah, I think it is sort of a dried blood color. It's a dark red brown, but it could also be, the red clay I have slathered all over myself, or it could be rust. It's a multi-use color, but it is a very dark reddish. It definitely at the moment reminds me of blood more than anything else.
Yeah, the blessings of Nima are upon you. You can peel away from the group as you wish, Orlin, if you want to try to engage in surreptitious behavior to provoke a reduction roll. What do you think?
Sure. I was wondering, is there a way to do a reduction roll in regards to those statues?
Yeah, what would you do?
Undo what they did.
Oh, nice. So you actually desecrate their right.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah. So go ahead and roll a light die.
Okay. I got a 3.
Nice. So you go back down to 4. And you can keep doing this to keep lowering it as you wish, if you think of other treacherous activities.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, I want to follow up with that. Basso, you're not feeling the protection or the presence of the sister anymore. How do you know that? Like, why do you feel this? What's happened?
I think there is a bit where I felt like my load was lightened. And there is that as I'm walking, we see me hunch more, and I can kind of feel all that pressure kind of come back to weigh on me. And all I can think is that it was a tease, that the goddess lifted me up for the moment to let me fall further down, because I certainly don't deserve redemption. And
nice.
She's making that clear.
Cassian, do you feel the absence of Nima?
I don't think I notice it right away. I think those tendrils stop moving, which is, since I interpreted it as like a blessing, it's a little disconcerting, but it's not a thing that you notice right away because they weren't moving that much. So I think at some point during the day, I look down and at first I think they're just gone because they're not moving anymore. And then I look at it closer, and the hairs are still like thicker and still, tendrily, but they're very still.
Yeah. You continue your journey deeper into the fen. Along the way, you see an ancient but still standing well of rough but carefully fit moss-covered stones. A powerful smell of damp mold rises from it, and fat violet slugs line the inside stones where the sun does not fall. A little later, you see the remains of a campsite atop a vast, soft bed of turquoise moss. Ragged, rotting bits and pieces of tattered and trampled gear are scattered across it. A powerful smell of animal musk hangs in the air.
May I interrupt you here for just a second?
Please do, yeah.
I think that is the point at which I can't help myself. I have to go and look at the remains and look at the gear and see if there's anything that we can scavenge here. Any food or tools or maps or anything. I have to look through there.
What do you hope to accomplish?
I hope to find something useful.
I'm going to give you a die roll. What could go wrong on the die roll?
Well,
there's a fail. Oh, not for you. If it fails.
Yeah.
Bethany or Fraser?
It's a trap.
Like that.
Yeah, there's something under this mound of turquoise moss.
Mm-hmm. Something that does not want to be disturbed. Yeah. Like that. I don't have anything to add. Let's take a look at your dice.
I have 1 die for foraging.
You're good to go there. And Devil's Bargains, anyone?
An owl shows up.
An owl, a preternaturally aware owl that lives in a swamp for some reason shows up. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll take the owl.
You're up to 2 light dice. And do you want to risk your mind and body?
No.
All right, roll your 2 light dice.
Double 6s.
Nice. Good. Let's check the rule on... Oh, no, you didn't roll a dark die, so you're good.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, I have a treasure table. I'm going to use it.
Oh, yeah.
The treasure table, for listeners of this podcast, is available in Codex Emerald. That's the treasure table I'm using anyway. I'm going to grab that and see what you find. You might find something so good that it might be worth, turning around and leaving. Who knows? You might decide I'm done.
Yes.
Who knows? Let's take a look, though. Roll a light die and a dark die for me, please.
Okay. So I've got 4 light and 2 dark.
All right, thank you. You find a masterwork sword that is surprisingly well preserved by this turquoise moss. The interesting feature of this sword is the hilt, the handle, is also a blade, requiring an incredibly high level of skill to use. We have a historian amongst us. Tell us,
yes,
historian.
There's no way for me to hide this thing.
Well, if you want to try to hide it, you can, but otherwise...
A sword, no. I cannot.
Orlin, you know a thing or two about these things. Tell me about Old Kaldur and why they used these swords that have blades for handles. What was that all about?
I think it's a specific knight sword that, when disgraced, was forced to use these kind of blades as a form of punishment to earn their way back into knighthood again.
Nice. Here's the thing, Basso. You don't use swords, but if we're talking about ancient relics that are worth huge amounts of money, the Justicars this would fetch a pretty penny and would definitely help you along your way. How are you feeling about your newfound treasure?
How much does the historian tell me it's worth?
As with all relics, it's incalculable.
I nod, because I knew it was incalculable. Or a lot. I was waiting to see whether he would lie to me. So he's not quite the sack of rat shit that I thought he was.
Yeah, the tongue would lie to you, but I'm in charge at the moment.
Well, that's actually really interesting, because I think as you are showing him the sword, Basso, this is the first time you're seeing Orlin's tongue. It slides out of his mouth. Orlin doesn't even seem to notice it. And you see the 2 long feelers that have sprouted and a very, very tiny sucker-like mouth with a ring of teeth, very fine, tiny teeth. And it's whispering to you. As Orlin is looking at the sword, you can hear the tongue just...
Yeah.
Roll ruin, please.
I was going to say to you right now, how about I make that ruin roll right now?
Go ahead and make that ruin roll. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to roll this pip die, which has been so good to me. Screw you, pip die. That takes me to a 5, sir.
You are now in the range of reduction rolls. How do you feel when you see this tongue, this whispering tongue?
It is foul and grotesque, and when he goes to sleep, I know I'm going to slice it out of his mouth.
And that sounds like a great reason for a reduction roll too, or great justification for.
I step back, make a face, and clutch this blade to me, and look at him with disgust.
Nice, good.
Cassian, something wrong with Orlin.
Like, what is...
Why don't you go talk to him? You'll see.
Yeah, okay. He seems to be really into that sword. Yeah, I'll go talk to him.
My tongue is very wise.
Is your tongue still doing its thing? Or have you gotten it under control?
Oh, I'm sure it is, yeah. It's wild and free.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the tongue, I'm also going to make you roll a ruin roll.
That's fair. I mean, that does explain the slurping, but it's still pretty terrifying.
So was that sabotage from Basso then?
I only thought of it as sabotage after the fact, so no.
Yeah, I don't think it quite rises to the level either. I think
No.
that's something you would probably say no matter what, right? I feel like the reduction rolls like us. I mean, it's treacherous shit like Orlin did, right?
So that is a 4, which matches my ruin roll. That means I raise it.
You do
or
raise it, yeah.
Okay. So I'm at a 5-2 now. We're just all going to betray each other.
Everyone's at the edge. How do you feel when you see this tongue, which is also... No, the tongue is not whispering to you.
Right. But I mean, I still see, like, it's that mouth is just, I gag a little bit and take a step back, and I kind of look at Orlin, like, your tongue... What the hell happened to your tongue?
It's a common affliction one gets from the reeds. I'll make it right as rain when we get back. Though I admit it is somewhat disconcerting.
A bit, yes.
Somewhat.
Some
I suppose it could
people
Worse.
in the area would call
I
it a
guess.
blessing.
And I like make a point to just not look at Orlin for the rest of the day.
Some people in this area would call it a blessing.
I mean, some people are into
Historically.
that, but
Historically.
All right. I'll bite. Who?
The that used to live around here.
did they have slug tongues too?
They hoped that they would.
So did any of them get them? Because it would be handy to know what eventually happens. Does it break off and crawl away?
I'm afraid that's in volume number 2. I couldn't afford volume number 2. I only had volume number 1 handy.
This sounds
Well, I guess
vaguely
we'll find out.
spurious to me,
Do you think?
but fair enough. We have a treasure we could return.
I'm not here for treasure.
What? What do you mean? Everyone's here for treasure.
Not here for treasure.
What are you here for then?
I'm here to find out what happened to my father, who came for research, not treasure.
What about you? What about you, Orlin?
The camera tightens up on my face and I say, revenge!
Nice. That feels good to me. You continue on. I think you're so tired at this point, especially because of your ordeal with the bug swarm, that during your regularly scheduled break, you all just pass out. You all just kind of nod off the heat, the exhaustion, the blood loss. It all just kind of hits you at once. And you each have a dream. A dream that is pleasant at first, but then it is interrupted by insects. It becomes a nightmare about insects, and then you wake up. I want each of you to tell me about your pleasant dream, and then I'm going to ask another player to describe how it becomes a nightmare about insects. Whoever wants to go first.
I think I was in my previous life before I fell as an impeached official. I was a judge, so I'm back on the on a in a courtroom presiding and giving, good judgment on all things, at least as far as I know. And of course, the watchers in the back also think they applaud when I make my rulings.
Lol, make it horrifying and insect-like.
And I think that when you bring the gavel down, it kind of shakes the table, and like the room maybe kind of shakes, and from every like corner, edge, every kind of little bit, you start to see these things come out, and they're little insects with these two pincers at the back end. They're called earwigs, and they kind of pour out and everyone who's clapping, they're still clapping, but those are pouring out from under their sleeves, so on, and they're all kind of falling on you, and they're crawling, and they are making, even though earwigs don't do this, but these ones are making for your ears.
Nice. Cassian, tell us about your pleasant dream.
It's hot and sticky, and I'm covered with mud. So I have a dream that seems it's incredibly pleasant right now. I'm swimming in a spring that I used to swim in when I was a kid, and the water is very cool and very clear. And I dive down, and I look at I'm watching the fish swim through the plants, at the bottom of the spring. And I think that's all it is. It's not a complicated, dream.
Yeah, no, they don't. Yeah, the best ones probably aren't. Huh? Fraser, how does it go bug-wise?
Bug-wise, I think at first the water turns to mud, so you claw your way up above it, and as you surface, there's like that big swarm of gnats or whatever it was, those holy creatures. Yeah. And as you scream upward, they go into your mouth.
Tell us about your pleasant dream, Basso.
I think it's one of those times between battles where I'm out and I'm just walking through the green countryside, and there's no one watching me, and there's no obligation, and I've got enough food in my belly, and the wind comes across, and it's spring, and it's just beautiful outside, and I am not being hunted. I'm just a free man walking.
Bethany, tell us about the nightmare.
As you walk, you're so alone and so free. I don't know if you're the type to sing in public, but you start to sing this, little tune to yourself. And you realize in the dream that you're singing that shanty that the brigands were singing. And just as you realize that and stop, this swarm of bees comes out of your mouth with the words.
Nice.
And flies away.
Nice.
I don't think this rises to the level of ruin necessarily. Everyone has bad dreams. But you probably all do wake up in a sort of benighted mood, an ill mood, an ill-favored look on your faces. And you would probably instinctively go for your pack, right? A piece of food, a cloth to wipe the sweat away from your brow, that kind of thing. And you will each, if you wish, this is optional, but you may find something that someone from back home, whatever counts as home, put in your pack without you knowing it. What is it, and how does it lift your spirits? And again, this is optional.
I think for me, it's at the bottom, there's one of those hard, tight cider apples that has been jammed down in the bottom by someone who kind of a guy who always kind of treated me as a scum, but maybe when I said I was going to get the trophy, maybe that I was going to go to get these treasures. Maybe that made him have a sense that maybe it was more than I said I was. And so, yeah, I've got that delicious, hard-skinned, super tight and tart apple there.
Nice.
I find a little. It's clay or ceramic, but it's kind of like almost a toy soldier. Only a few inches tall, which is how I didn't notice it in my pack until now. And as I look at it, I realize that it was made by my sister, who has recently gotten into sculpting, and that she must have made this for me very recently. And I, if I actually study it, I realize that it's meant to be a portrait of me, but looking more like heroic and grand. And I don't know if this is how she thinks of me or how she's like encouraging me to think of myself as I do this, but it's a very nice gesture. It's actually kind of a terrible sculpture, but it's a very nice gesture.
Orlin, before you have a chance to wake up and go into your pack, I want to tell Basso that, Basso, you wake up before Orlin. Orlin is asleep. What do you do?
That is the point at which I very carefully scoot over to the side and I begin to cast Hollow.
Ah, good.
Because that tongue is alive.
Yeah.
To save, I say in air quotes, I'm going to save Orlin and I'm going to push whatever that horrible slug spirit is out of his mouth.
I love it. I don't think I want the full risk roll here necessarily, but I do want you to describe what the ritual looks like, and then I want you to take your reduction roll.
I think that it's that I have to kind of like draw or make a just something that represents like a horrible sleeping sketch of Orlin with the broken end of my stick, and then kind of draw the slug coming out of the mouth, and then I circle that and I drop black volcanic salt on it, which is both ritually appropriate for this and very specifically appropriate for the slug. And then I have to kind of lean and run my own tongue along the drawing of it in the mud and salt, and then spit. And that's what will push it out.
I wish everybody on the podcast could see us because we're all visibly quivering on camera from this description. Does the whole tongue come out, or is it just the spirit animating the tongue?
It is the spirit. So I have perhaps thought briefly what's going to happen when he has a dead slug tongue, but I'm more concerned with pushing that spirit out.
I love it. I love it. And if you're okay with it, I'm going to play with that in the future. We can go to a risk roll, but I kind of like it just the way it is right there. Go ahead and do the reduction roll.
Ooh, that did not get reduced.
Did not get reduced. Interesting.
I rolled a 6, so it did not.
Ouch.
It doesn't go up, but I would like to suggest that what happens is I think the ritual isn't working the way you hoped it would. In fact, I think what's happening is the slug tongue is literally counterspelling you. Like, it's like casting a counter to your magic. And you're not able to do it.
Okay, I'm like really scared right now.
And that's when you'll also notice that, and I don't need a ruin roll here, I think your failed reduction roll is sufficient, but you'll also notice that the spiders are trying to communicate with the tongue. How do you know that?
Oh, I think because my fingers are up, and I hate to do this, but there is a Charlotte's Web style webs between my fingers, and I can see runes stitched in the webbing between my fingers. And I can see that they match some of the drawings that I did on the ground, the symbols that I did there, as if the spiders are telling the slug how to counterspell this.
I love it. Like they're working against you. That's great. You have survived Ring 3 of the incursion.